What can give us a big boost in meditation? All right, that's the question for today. Hope everybody's doing well out there. My name is Thomas and welcome to my channel. I do educational videos on many different topics. But the channel's just getting started and we're kind of trying to lay the foundation. So what we're doing here at the beginning is we're going over the 144 different minor aspects of the Tree of Life. So we're trying to learn how the Tree of Life works. The Tree of Life is a great tool to study and to learn for its own sake. But in addition to that, it's also a very strong organizing system. And so we can learn it as a foundation for studying all the other topics that we will eventually be studying in this course or on this channel. And so we learn Tree of Life so that we have a kind of a place to put all the other stuff that we're going to learn. It's excellent for, being able to process large amounts of information. So we're going to lay the groundwork by establishing the Tree of Life, and then we're going to get into all these other powerful subjects. Okay, so this is the Tree of Life right here. It's a diagram. It's generally thought of as being like a map of our consciousness. And this map goes back all the way to ancient Egypt, if not before. It's mainly been used by the ancient Hebrews. They called it Kabbalah in a slightly different version. And it's used in the modern time by occultists all around, good and evil. And also the Orthodox Jews use it, some mystic Christians. But anyway, it's got, as you can see, 10 different circles that are numbered. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. There is a thing here called the abyss, which is an implied circle or sphere. And then there is a 0 above the tree. So that makes a total of 12 different components, 12 different aspects of our consciousness, more or less. 12 different faculties of our consciousness, 10 different abilities of our consciousness. And we basically, the universe starts up here and it evolves down all the way, and then we start here at 10 and we evolve back in this direction. So the 10th sphere is what we got to go with at the beginning, and then we gradually try to open up these other spheres as we move along. Usually we don't get very far. So the 10th, and that's why we try to teach the tree so that we can systematically learn to open up the higher aspects. Okay, so the 10th sphere, where we're starting, is our survival or our instinct. This is our fight or flight response. This is our life force that we use to keep us alive, keep us breathing, keep our heart beating, keep our the toxins flushing and eliminating from the body. All those things are involved in the life force. We can invert the life force through our conscious efforts through things like addictions and lusts, defilements, and those things serve to damage the life force. Okay, then as we grow up, right from the start, the early ages of our life, we are opening up this 9th sphere, where the 10th sphere is like the wild animal, the 9th sphere is like the domesticated animal. So this is our domestic situation, what we're getting in the home. Growing up, when we're very young, we are wide-eyed and just taking in everything, highly receptive. Everything is new and fresh to us, and it's amazing. So we are looking at everything, and we're being cared for by our caregivers, parents, or whoever they are, and they're feeding us and cleaning us up and sheltering us. And so we develop some kind of devotion. They have a devotion to us, and they are nurturing us. And in return, we focus a lot of our attention on them and let them influence us. So we watch all their movements. We watch what they do, and then eventually we imitate what they do, and we practice that imitation. So this is how things get passed down through this heightened receptivity or mediumistic trance, and then this imitation and this practice, and then this memorization. And the automatic memorization moves it back down into the body, from the mind memory to the body memory. So that's the ninth sphere, the domestic sphere. So where the ninth is domestic, the eighth is out in public. So this is what you get when you start moving into public. After you start going to school, you're going to church, you're going to the grocery store, to the mall, to the rec center, and you're coming in contact with regular or ordinary everyday people. You're also coming into contact with kind of the elite side of it through the institutions, the establishment, and the media, the politics. And so these people really control the eighth sphere. The eighth sphere for us is really our belief systems and our logical faculties, or superficial, on a superficial level. And this corresponds to the conventional wisdom or the consensus worldview. Everybody knows that. What they tell us is true, and this is what we pick up in their institutions, in their schools, on their media, in their churches. They tell us what we're supposed to believe, and this causes oftentimes is a tension, because the eighth sphere is really a trickster. So they tell us what to believe, but oftentimes they don't believe it themselves. They're just telling us that in order to kind of control us. And so a lot of times what they tell us to believe goes directly against our experience or our common sense. Even though we're very young and we don't have a lot of experience, it still goes against our experience. It just doesn't feel right. A lot of times, a lot of us who've been to school, who grew up in going to elementary school and stuff, we weren't able to really articulate it, but we were just like, this just doesn't feel right. This is not how it's supposed to be. What is this? And so we're thinking that, but we can't really say it because there's a lot of pressure. The eighth sphere is high pressure, and they put pressure on you, such as peer pressure, to conform to this eighth sphere. And they also falsely trump up the eighth sphere as if it's like the be-all, end-all, as if this is where your destination for life is. If you succeed in life, you will end up here at the eighth sphere. But as we can see from the diagram, the eighth sphere is merely the third of our 12 faculties that we have to develop. So we can get stuck in the eighth sphere if we do things like twisting the eighth sphere or inverting the eighth sphere in order to conform to the wishes of the powers that be. So, if they tell us that the emperor is wearing no clothes, but we clearly see that the emperor is, we're under pressure to kind of really reject our own feelings about it and to, pretend that we are to actually really believe that the emperor is wearing no clothes, and just kind of saying, well, I don't know, something must be wrong with my vision, but I guess the emperor is wearing clothes. I'll have to, see if I can fix my vision. So we end up rationalizing. That's one of the fallacies of our logical reasoning. That's a way that we invert the eighth sphere. We can also use false consensus, where we say, oh, just because everybody believes it means that it's automatically true, which is also another fallacy that causes us to twist the eighth sphere. So when we do these twisting of logic, that causes us to get trapped and caught here. if we see the A-sphere for what it is, just another sphere to be opened, a positive thing, but not anything to be celebrated, that we just have to move on to the next sphere, then we pretty much approach it with like a minimal compliance kind of thing. Okay, I know I have to get into the A-sphere because this is where all the resources are located. This is where all the, any kind of credibility or status is located. And so I have to kind of give lip service to the A-sphere, but I never want to be able to kind of relinquish my own feelings and beliefs in favor of what they're telling me. So we just kind of give lip service to it, and then we move on. Okay, so when we move on to the seventh sphere, the A-sphere is really like the real world, but the seventh sphere is more like the imaginary world. So the seventh sphere is what you get when you question the A-sphere and you're like, the A-sphere's got all these problems, it's this and it's that. And so I imagine something that's better. I imagine a better way of doing it. And I'm going to try to come up with an alternative to the A-sphere in some capacity or another. So that's really the what's going on behind the seventh sphere. And so you have your imagination and you have other qualities that faculties here that are going to help you to create this alternative. One, you have your inspiration. You have your heroes and role models who came before you who really did the same thing, who also moved against the A-sphere and actually were able to articulate some constructive dissent. So those people are inspiring you and motivating you. You also have the intuition, and so your intuition is really triggered by your curiosity. You question, what can I do to make it better? And you go inside to your heart and you come up with your heart transmits some answers to you, and those answers are correct, but you may not be interpreting them correctly, so you have to verify your intuitions. You also have your creative spark, your ability to put things together, new arrangements, and also pleasing arrangements, your pleasure principle. You put all these things together and you kind of add them up and you get really a higher calling for your life. You get the the ideas, the creative ideas for alternatives, and where the A-sphere is teaching you that you're supposed to be a cog in the machine, you're supposed to be an executive, or you're supposed to be, a secretary, or you're supposed to be a doctor. These things are just categories. But here you are individualizing it. You're saying, I want to be the best version of myself. And I'm going to work my life toward that, toward accomplishing this mission where I see the best version of myself in this particular universe that I'm in. Where can I fit in the best? And so you work on that, and that's really your higher calling, and it gives you kind of the impetus to move forward up the tree. Okay, and so when we get to the sixth sphere, this is really the key and the center. This is, this, you can see all the lines are connecting all the other spheres from the sixth sphere. It's at the centrally located. And this, if this were a map, it would say you are here. And the sixth sphere is really our free will faculty. This is our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. Normally, we pay attention down the tree to the lower aspects. The attention is like a vector. It has a direction. So we're paying attention in this direction. But if we can make decisions, we can choose to avert our attention from this lower realm and where it's very comfortable, and to move it up here into paying attention to our higher development. And that is something that requires courage, because it's taking us from a place of comfort to a place of danger or the unknown. And so we have to summon some courage to be able to face the fear to do that. But if we can, then we can apply our attention to the next higher sphere, the fifth. And the fifth sphere has to do with our sense of justice. our sense of fairness. And this can be described as karma. You can think of this as being a mirror here that reflects. So it's cause and effect, action and reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. What's the other one? What comes around goes around. And these things, so what you're putting in is what you're getting back. And karma is judging you based on, or reflecting based on your violence, waste, and violation. So if you're violating people, you get violated in return. But if you are paying attention, you can recognize that eventually, and instead of whining about it and saying that you're a victim because these bad things are happening to you, you can turn it around and say, these bad things are happening to me because I deserve it, because I'm putting this in. And so if I can learn how to create less karma, less violence, waste, and violation in my actions, then it will return back to me, or less karma will return back to me. And so eventually karma can become your teacher as opposed to your enemy. It can become your protector instead of your punisher. Okay, we can do the same with the fourth sphere when we apply our attention. If the fifth sphere is about the enforcement of the law, the natural law and order of things, the fourth sphere is just about the articulation of that law and order. So this is the universal law, the universal language, and the universal love. And it more or less comes down to the cosmologies, the ancient holy books that have all written up how all these different fundamental questions can be answered. And there are pretty much every tradition has a cosmology or ancient holy book, and there are many modern ones as well. Some of them are better than others. Some people like some better than others. We're usually raised up within only one of them, but a more syncretic approach reflecting the fourth sphere would entail studying many different cosmologies and kind of using our intuition to sift through them and decide how what parts we want to keep and what parts we want to discard. So when we conscientiously intuit all of the different cosmologies that we've studied. And again, with the intuition, you have to be prepared at this level. You can't just ask your intuition before you've done the studying. You have to do the homework first. So you have to have a good knowledge of many cosmologies, and then you go to the intuition. And it will give you, answers so you can have your own personal cosmology to work forward with. And that will inform you for all other questions. Okay, so then when we go to the abyss here, the abyss has to do with our psychic powers, and it's really triggered by our omens, synchronicities or uncanninesses, deja vus, recurring names or numbers or themes, things that pop into our mind and strike us as being very anomalous or very, against the laws of probability, outlying events. And so the psychic powers have to do first with the psychic receptivity, being able to recognize that that's an omen and that's something important, and then also our psychic heat, which is being able to act upon the omen. The action is usually written into the omen, and then but being able to act upon it requires a certain amount of courage, because again, we're having to stand in the face of fear, basically to do it in spite of fear. And then also when we act upon the omen, we are responding to really a universal language of the omen. And so we are kind of really tuning ourselves up by responding to the omens. Okay, then at the top of the tree, we have the 3, 2, and 1, which are our divine faculties within. Here at 3, you have omnipotence, all powerful. We tap into this through sound synchronization, especially mantra, whirling dervishes, through shamanic drumming, sacred music. This is a sound thing. The second sphere is omniscience, all-knowing, or wisdom. We tap into this through sight, inner sight, and we establish that inner sight through very deep meditation where we're able to block off thoughts from our consciousness, and that calms our mind to the point it becomes transparent and we can see through the mind. And what we see when we see all the way to the center of the mind and it reflects back to us is we see the image of the problem that we're trying to solve. So that is really how wisdom operates. It's very difficult to reach that state in meditation. It takes years of practice. We can also use a surrogate of wisdom in the form of a tarot deck or any type of other divination system that uses random chance and invocation, and then asking the question and getting answers. It's a difficult process too because it has to be interpreted. You have to begin to gradually build up an understanding of the deck or whatever the divination system is and how it uses language. Okay, then at the top of the sphere top of the tree we have the first sphere, omnipresence, all present, all at once, eternally. And this is really the center of the mind. This is what we see when we do the wisdom and see through the mind. But here, not only are we seeing through the mind, we're actually being. We're actually merging with that higher self or singularity that's at our center. And when we do that, it's unifying because we recognize that what is at our deepest center is the same as what's at the deepest center of everything else. So that unifies us with the whole universe, with everything. So the universe is everything. While the universe at 1 is everything, the 0 is nothing, or a complete mystery. And the 0 is nothing because it is not part of the universe. The 0 is not in the universe, but it is in the creator. So the universe, the creator extends beyond the universe. The universe is just, the creator's side hustle. And we have this not universe that also is part of the creator, and we can't penetrate it, but we can get indirect messages from it. It's the same way that a 0 used in math, there is no 0, but when we adapted it for math, math took off. So it's a very powerful concept, even though it doesn't exist. Okay, so that is those are the 12 major aspects of the tree. Now to get to the 144 minor aspects, what we do is we take the whole tree and we shrink it down and apply it to each one of the spheres. So each one of the 12. So we put a whole tree on each one of the 12. So that's 12 plus 12 plus 12 plus 12 and so on, for a total of 144 different minor aspects. So these little trees, you would just call them fractals. So that's how we get to the 144 minor aspects of the tree. I've written those up in a guide, a free guide that I'd be happy to share with you if you click the link in the description, and I'll send that free guide out to you. Today, every day we look at a different one of the 144 different aspects. Today we're looking at number 57. And number 57 fits in right here at the 6th sphere. So this is having to do with our free will. This is our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. And it is the 3rd fractal of the 6th sphere. So this has to do with omnipotence, sound synchronization, has to do with like a high level of discipline. I also didn't mention that the 3rd sphere is really about the culmination of our higher calling. This is about really being able to accomplish everything that we've envisioned from way back here. And so that is the fractal part of the sixth sphere. So this is, mostly about paying attention and making decisions, free will, but then it's got this aspect of it that is having to do with omnipotence, sound synchronization, fulfilling our mission, and so on. Okay, so number 57, what can give us a big boost in meditation? Number 57 is called vigilance over thought. Stage 57 is about gaining a foothold in meditation simply by acquiring body memory of the fact that we are currently meditating. Move meditation beyond access concentration to insight, toward the waking trances, where we experience slower, deeper breathing while the senses are asleep. We learn to spy on our incoming thoughts, asking ourselves, what is the next thought? What is the next memory going to be? We build up alertness, attention, and rote memory of our meditation practices, continually reminding ourselves that we're now meditating without having to think about it. The reminding must be automatic. It must be in the body memory, memorized. Then we can really close off thinking and penetrate into the meditation. We process in a new dimension, a depth under the surface, deepening of the meditation. We will learn to penetrate meditation if we can learn the Menab technique. Abdominal and thought contractions are mutually exclusive. So use the lower dantian near the navel as the sensor center that we learn to automatically contract to stop thought. So the Menab technique zaps hopes, thoughts, memories, and emotions by pulling the abdomen in and up to automatically bring the attention back from a daydream, from a thought stream, and then also to release the guilt of having the hopes, thoughts, memories, and emotions in the first place. So the Menab technique consists of pulling in on our navel and learning to tolerate the sensations of oppression associated with guilt. The abdomen should be the only place in the body where tension is felt. Automatically trigger the abdominal contraction when we sense a mental tension, a mental disruption. Circumscribed vigilance. Thinking and then engaging the thoughts will move us quickly down the tree. So contract the abdomen and investigate the phenomena that we have decided upon before the meditation, while still not getting into the content of that phenomena, just noticing the pure sensations without commentary. Without Menab, we will eventually fall prey to streams of thoughts, hopes, emotions, and memories. The longer the uncontrolled stream continues, the further down the tree we go. And before long, we're down to the bottom of the tree, babbling to ourselves in our heads about purely animalistic desires. But with a learned automatic trigger like Menab, we can catch ourselves more quickly before we fall too far out of meditation. The training of Menab is needed because in a universe of motion, thinking is hard work. It is just like exercise for the mind. We have material bodies which tend towards stillness. So doing something or exercising is work. So too, the mind tends toward motion. So doing nothing is work. It requires going against the grain of the mind. Not thinking and also not following its content requires effort, and it can be tiring. We have to build up our endurance. Meditating is hard work, or more people would be doing it, but most would rather not sit still and do nothing. They would rather do work, do repetitive drudgery with dangerous machinery, or to just veg out in front of a screen. But that is not doing nothing. That is being indoctrinated. In mental fasting, or not thinking, we have to do nothing, just like with patience or abstinence and ablutions. All we have to do is do nothing, but it is very hard. We will not want to start meditating, and some days we will not want to continue. But if we keep at it, it will eventually pay off. If we take advantage of the Menab technique, if we learn to take no thought for our lives. Vigilance over thought is the first step toward learning to keep the heart stable to live truth. Satipatthana. Okay, that is number 57, the third fractal of the sixth sphere, vigilance over thought. And that is today's installment for the 144 different fractal faculties. I appreciate that you stuck around to the end of the video. Please hit the like button. You can make constructive comments in the description section, in the comment section. You can get your free copy of the guide to the 144 fractal faculties by clicking the link in the description. You can share the video with others. You can subscribe to the channel, and keep in mind that I will be doing another video on the same topic, but a different one of the 144 fractal faculties tomorrow. And in the meantime, please have a nice day.